Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar on automating reports and procedures. My name's Jamal, and I'm a pre-sales consultant here at Meditech UK. Today, we're going to have a look at the tabular task scheduler. We'll look at how to process reports on the scheduler, how to add parameters to automated procedures, and how to utilize your BPM to schedule reports based on status and actions. At the end of this webinar, I will look at and answer any questions. You can ask questions by using the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen. If for any reason I cannot answer a question, we'll email you the answer at a later date. To begin today, we're going to be looking at the tabular task scheduler. This is a built-in system process that runs on the server. You can control the automation of many parts of the system, from your backups to your backflush, and used correctly, the tabular task scheduler can take the pressure off your business by automating procedures and reports that would usually require a human input. On the screen, you'll see a screenshot of the Define TTS tasks form. This is where you can set your reports and procedures to run automatically at various times in the day. It's important to note that if you're running multiple resource-heavy tasks overnight, such as MRP, that it is worthwhile spacing them out so you aren't calling upon too much server power at any given time. As we jump into priority and open the form, we'll have a look at how to get there shortly. We can see a list of active and non-active tasks as signified by the active tick box here. Your active tasks will always appear at the top of the list. If we take the topmost active task, backflush, we can look at the sublevel recent processes. This shows us the most recent times the program's been run on the scheduler, when it started, when it finished, and how long it took to run. Here's a little more on what we're going to cover today. Before we add anything to the task scheduler, we will do a manual run of the report or procedure. I've created a specific user called report input. This user's sole purpose in priority is to hold the inputs for the scheduler to use for reports and procedures. The first thing I'm going to do is automate the MRP schedule to run nightly at 3 a.m. With a predetermined set of parameters. It will create work orders, and then we're going to run the ATP report we're going to set the ATP report to run every time we log into the system in the morning. So the first thing we're going to do is go to the home screen where I have MRP waiting here. But to get to it as well, you can just go to purchasing, MRP for manufacturers, material requirements planning. And we're going to just run through these. These inputs aren't too important. It's just important that we do select them. That's because we're not actually running MRP as such. We're just setting up input for the system, but we can change one or two as well. So just keep going through those. Now, what is important is that the date inputs are what's known as dynamic date. That is to say, yesterday, today, tomorrow, the start of the quarter, the end of last year, the start of next year. It's important to use that rather than static dates, such as the 15th of September or the 1st of December, because If you're using the static dates, these will become obsolete when the procedure is running in the background of the system. So we're going to run that now, and you'll notice that we've used the report input user to log in. So that's now done. So we can go back to our main system, and to get to the defined TTS tasks form, if it's not on your home page, we just go to System Management, System Maintenance, Tabular Task Scheduler, Define TTS Tasks. Now we're going to add that. We can use the Control and Enter button to add a new line. And then we're going to make sure we're searching for the name of the procedure and not its name in the background of the system. So material requirements planning, and you'll see it's automatically put a P in there. And you'll see this here, the command winactive -P for procedure, MRP. We're going to select the company we're currently in, using the F10 key to pull down from the one above. And we want to set this to run at 3 a.m. And we are going to flag every day so that it's running every day. Now, we want to give it a name, and it's important to give it a name that means something. So we're going to call it the nightly MRP run. And don't forget, we've used the user for input. So those inputs that we've set up, we want those to be the input that the system uses. And we're just going to add a couple of other companies as well. So in the sub-level companies task, you can add as many other companies for this to run in as you like. So there's just a couple added there. And that's it. That's MRP now scheduled to run every day at 3 a.m. And as you should see, there's a lot of inputs for the MRP function. So it is a good one to run when your employees are not in the office. Now, one thing I haven't ticked yet, that the more eagle-eyed among you might have noticed, is the active flag. So make sure you do flag that just to turn it on and make sure your system is saving your changes. So it's all well and good, the MRP running overnight, but what we need is to have the report run in the morning to show us what the MRP run has done. So what we can do is go to the purchasing menu, MRP for manufacturers, then MRP reports, and we can right-click on the analysis of MRP results, so ATP report. And what we're doing is clicking the Open After Login function. And now if we log out and log back in, and we're going to put in report input. Whilst I'm logging in, I did just see a question that I'm going to answer on the fly. You absolutely don't have to have a report input user set up, but it means that you're not relying on the parameters of a member of staff who may run the procedure manually, and then they may change parameters, which could then affect your overnight results or what's on the scheduler. So it's just it's mainly for demo purposes, but it's just to give you an idea of something you could use that isn't used in a day-to-day capacity and won't be manually doing things every single day, essentially. So we can see here that the ATP report has run automatically when I log in, which is particularly helpful when you come into the office in the morning. So we're going to jump back into the PowerPoint now. And we'll move on to line 3. So we're going to automate the sales analysis to run at night. And we're going to set that for 4 a.m. so it doesn't clash with the MRP run. So first we're going to run it in the report input user. And we've got that one here, calculate monthly sales orders, and you'll see already that you've got the dynamic dates in there. Now, to get to the dynamic dates, if you left click for this particular function, you'll get the list of dynamic dates. If you right click, you'll get static dates. So again, left click gives you the list of dynamic dates. I'm going to leave these as they are. So start of last month and end of last month, I'm happy with those. So I'm going to run that, and you should get a message saying that figures were calculated for 1 month. So now when I go back into my headline user, I can get to the define TTS tasks from the recent items, which, as you can see, is at the top of my recent items, because it's the last thing I used on that system. And we're going to start looking for calculate monthly sales orders, which is the one at the bottom there, log val prep. And for this one, we're going to give it a description of management sales analysis. And we're going to set this one for 4 a.m. And we're going to put the report input step as before. So far, everything we've done has been the same. This is automatically set to active, but this time we're going to select specific days of the week for this to run. So we've got a sub-level called days of week for task, and you'll be able to get to this as long as you haven't flagged the everyday flag. So for this one, we're going to select Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And we've now set that one up. This one doesn't have an output, so no need to do anything else on this one. So we'll jump back onto our PowerPoint now. So now we want to automate the sales analysis report. So that's the one that's coming afterwards, to send to the head of the sales department, which is in the system a user. So if we go back into the system, and we're looking for orders per customer and part. So we can either get there from the home screen, or we can go to sales, orders, sales order reports, order analysis reports, customer analysis reports, and then orders per customers and parts. We're going to set that to run. And again, just to keep your mind fresh, that is really important that we're using the dynamic dates. So I'm going to keep it as the start of and end of last quarter in this example. And I'm just going to leave that blank to retrieve everything. You'll see that the report has run and brought some data back. Now, if we go back into our define TTS tasks, and we're going to look at the procedure to run. So this one was orders per customer and part, which you can see here, called sales cast. Now you'll see this time it pops up with a box saying select an entity type. Now, because we want it to use the parameters that we've set for our report input user, we need to select the P from the option here, and then that will put the info in. And we're going to put in sales report for sales manager as our task description. Put in the company automatically. And now for this one, it's not a heavy process. So I'm just going to set this for 4:30, just so that it will run after the sales, after the management sales analysis. Now, again, we're going to put our report input in into our user for input. And you'll also see that we want this to email out, and there is a user for email box. But what this does is it sends an email when the task begins and ends. It doesn't send out the actual email that's generated. It doesn't send out the report, for example. For this one, we're going to use the days of month for task. We just want this to send twice a month. on the 15th and the 28th. So here you can set up which days of the month this runs on. If we come back up to the top, we can then go down to more parameters. And what we're going to do this time is we want this to send out to a specific user. So we're going to select the U for send to user. And we're going to pick our sales manager, Ian. So then you'll see that it then puts a command in there to send to that specific user. That's his user number. Okay, and then that's that one done. So if we just jump back into the PowerPoint again now. So next we're going to automate the profit and loss to send to a management team, which is a group within Priority. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to create the group. And we can do this by going to Office Management, Contacts, Groups. So we're going to just put in man for management there. And then the users in the group, we're going to select Christine. We're going to select Bill. I'm sure those of you who've been with us for a while now will be familiar with some of these names. And we're going to select Ian as well as our management group. Escape out of there. And then, of course, we're going to go back into our report input, and we're going to select the profit and loss. So again, on this one, you need to make sure you're happy with the period, the fiscal year, and the other inputs that are here. I am happy with those. We're still in September, so we'll keep it as a nice period. Going to run our profit and loss. And so that's run. So we'll open up the Define TTS tasks again. And this time we're putting in profit and loss. You didn't check that. There we go, the one called income statement. And we're going to select our key again so that we get our parameters popped in. And we're going to select our company as the company we're currently in. And for this one, we don't want this to run overnight. We want this to show up on the management desk at 9 o'clock each morning. So we can just select 9 a.m. And we want this one to run every day. And report input. And we're going to call this management group E and L. It is important that you give it a meaningful description because as you're starting to see, we're starting to get a lot of active tasks. And so you want to ensure that people know exactly why something is on your scheduler and that they don't touch it or delete it or make it inactive. So let's make that one active. And then if this time we just jump down to the more parameters and we select the recipient type of messages and we send to group this time, and then you'll have a list of the groups that you can pick. So I'm going to pick man, and then you'll see it gives you the command of -G man. So that is that one done. Now I'm sure you're thinking this is all well and good, but can we see it actually working? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to automate the sales order report to send to an external email address, which will be my email address. So what we want to actually see is one send out to me during the webinar. So this is step number 6 on this list here. So let's jump back in. And we'll just go back to the home pages. Now for this one, I'm going to go to sales, orders, sales order reports, detailed reports, sales order reports, sales orders. That's a lot of saying sales orders. I'm going to run this one. So again, just a reminder of the dynamic date. So we've got the start of last year to today. We're going to run that, and we're going to leave these to run themselves. And we can see here, nice big report full of lots of data. So What we're going to do now is we're going to go back to our defined TTS tasks, and we're going to look for sales orders. And this one's called orders by cust. Again, we just need to pop the P in there. And we're going to call this one sales order report. Well, we're going to do it in this company. And how long do I think I need? Let's give it 2 minutes. Nice. Rush to do this one now. So report input, set it for every day. And let's drop down to more parameters. And what we want this time is we want send to email address. And I'm just going to pop my email address in here. Nothing like a bit of live pressure. Okay, I'm done with plenty of time. That's good news. I'm going to pop back up to the top, and I'll just let that sort itself out. I think we've got about 60 seconds before that comes through. So whilst we wait to receive that, I'd just like to reiterate how powerful this tool is. We've been able to set multiple daily business tasks to automate by running off of the task scheduler with various parameters set in advance. We've looked at how this can send out an email to an email address, a specific user, and a group. How we can set this to run in multiple companies on different days of the week and on different days of the month, as well as running every day if you require. And if you need it to run more than once a day, you can even use the frequency to suggest how often it runs. For example, the hourly backup runs every 60 minutes. And we've done all of that in the space of roughly 15 to 20 minutes, saving hours of man time each and every week. So whilst we just wait for that to finish coming through, we're going to move on to line 7 now. So we're moving away from the task scheduler and on to using the BTM flow rules to automate communication between staff and out to customers. And hopefully I should be about to receive an email. So in the meantime, I'm just going to open up. I'm just going to go back to the home screen and we're going to open up the sales order form. Oh, I've got mail. So you can see here that that's come out and I can open up this file and there's the report. And it looks very similar to the one that we ran manually, which is good news because obviously we haven't created any sales orders in that time. So there's it working, sent out with our parameters directly to me at the time specified. Okay, so as I was saying, we've gone into the sales order form. I'm going to select the status column and we're going to click through to the BPM. I've got a very basic BPM set up here, just proof of concept, basically. We've got our in progress status. If we right click and click on rules, you'll see that there's one there already, but we'll look at that one in a minute. I'm going to go to new. And I'm going to call it send documentation to customer. And anyone who's familiar with business rules might recognize the layout here. But what we're going to do is we're going to select when the document remains in this status for longer than 2 minutes, we're going to send an email to the form column, contact. That means it's going to the contact of the customer who has set up, who's asked for the sales order. And it's going to say, your order has been confirmed. And just bear with me here because I've got the text to go in the message already. Now, what we're doing here is we're saying, thank you for ordering with Meditech, order number order. So that puts in the order number. And you can do that simply by adding the field to your message in this add field button here. Please find attached your sales order confirmation We hope that you enjoy your product. So we can select order confirmation, put that into standard format, select it as a PDF, and we're not worrying about the if value. We want this to send out to our customer as soon as the document has been in the in progress status for longer than 2 minutes. So what it will do is it will send them their order confirmation. And then once that's happened, so we're taking out a manual process here and automating it. So once that's happened, we can have a look at the one that I created earlier. And that's when the document remains in this status for longer than 3 minutes, so 1 minute more, you're going to change the status to completed, because then the system knows that it's sent out what it needs to send out. And it's going to change the status to completed when all conditions are met. Now, we need to oversee this. So once it gets to completed status, send email to sales manager. And this time we're going to select when the document reaches this status, we want to send an email to the user, Ian, who's the sales manager. And we're going to say, a document has been sent to a customer, please check. And I've just got some text here for this one as well. So, hi Ian, order number, order again, so he knows which order has been completed. We've attached a copy of the customer's order confirmation for your records. That way, if anything goes wrong, someone is there to oversee it and make sure things are okay. But that's just, you can imagine that that could be used in a multitude of different ways, those sorts of rules, in order to take out the manual step of having to send things out manually. And we're just going to make sure we attach that document in the same format, PDF, and keep it the same. So it goes into in progress status, stays there for 2 minutes. It then tells the customer by sending them their order confirmation. A minute later, it completes. And then after it completes, it lets the sales manager know that it's sent that documentation out to the customer. So that does bring me to the end. I'm just going to have a look at, see if there's any questions. So there's a question here saying, would the report input need to be an active user? And the answer to that is, it will need to be an active user as it's being set up. So when you're putting in the report inputs, if you will. But after that, you can make it a non-active user, and then the inputs will still work. They won't stop working. So it won't use up a license. You'll just need to have it active whilst you're putting the inputs in. I'd suggest doing a block of them at once if you want to do it that way. And then you can make it non-active as well. Okay, well, thanks very much for listening and watching. If you'd like some time with a consultant or some training on any of these areas, don't hesitate to contact us. We can tailor sessions to suit you. I haven't seen any more questions come in, so I'm going to end there. But if you do have any questions, don't hesitate to get in contact through email. Okay, thank you guys. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.